Invite up Councillor Richard Thomas, be sworn in as an alternate councillor for the City of Owen Sound.
I, Richard Thomas, having been elected or appointed to the office of alternate councillor in the municipality of the County of Grey, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
So I'll have you sign it right there. Welcome to the City Council.
Thank you.
I'll invite the warden to come down for a quick photo.
Done this before? Great, thanks. Special budget day.
Yes, you picked a good one. Okay.
I will do a roll call. Councillor Mackey.
Present.
Councillor Gamble. Present. Councillor Burley. Present. Councillor Carlton. Present. Councillor McQueen. Councillor Desai. Present. Councillor Patterson. Present. Warden Hicks.
Here.
Councillor Clumpus. Here. Councillor Keaveney. Councillor Body sends his regrets. Councillor Thomas.
Here.
Councillor O'Leary.
Present.
Councillor Woodbury. Present. Councillor Millen. Present. Councillor Soever.
Present.
Councillor Bartnicki.
Present.
Councillor Robinson.
Present.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Item number 6, adoption of minutes, starting with the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, January 24th. Councillor Burley, I believe, moved by, seconded by Councillor Clumpus. Councillor Burley?
Mr. Warden, I would like to pull motion CW 2619, please, to be voted on separately.
Okay, do we need a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Mackey. Discussion. Would you like to speak? Yeah.
May?
Yes.
We're just adopting the minutes, save and except for that resolution. So once that resolution comes on the floor, then it will be up for discussion.
Got it. Okay. So we all understand what we're voting on? The package, save and except for the item that's been pulled. Any discussion? I call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Burley.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I would like to make a friendly amendment. The resolution CW 2619 regarding the redevelopment application of the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care for Rockwood Terrace be amended to include 120 beds instead of the original 100 beds.
Need the main motion moved first, and then we can make an amendment.
The main motion has been passed, though, right?
Nope, the main motion has been pulled to be voted on separately.
Ah, okay. Thank you. So we will need a mover then. Do you want to move that, Councillor Burley, that the main motion be moved? Seconded by Councillor Woodbury.
Okay, then Councillor Burley can move the amendment,
Okay.
and we need a seconder then.
So now the amendment. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. So who wants to move the amendment?
We're looking just for a seconder.
Oh,
So
Councillor Burley, and seconded by Councillor Bartnicki. Discussion.
We seem to be dealing with a lot of very important things, and this issue to do with Rockwood is very extremely important to get this project on the goal. And we've had reports and coming from staff that the 128 module works excellent. It's very cost effective. It would make a very more efficient home. Modules of 32 seem to be the key to the whole exercise. We can either drop down to 96 to make it the module, or go up to 128. 128 to me makes absolute sense to do that. If this motion passes here today, it allows us to proceed immediately with getting this home undergo, because 2025 is coming real quick, and there's a tremendous amount of things to do before now and then. And I feel we should deal with this as a separate issue, and then deal with the other parts of other motions that are coming forward.
Thank you. Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Councillor Burley, for providing the background on that. My question, Mr. Warden, through you to staff is, are we voting just on the second clause of that motion? And having said that, there was a different motion passed at the previous meeting with regards to 90 beds, or an application for an additional 90 beds. Does that still remain in effect?
So, through you, Mr. Warden, yes, right now the amendment speaks to just the second clause of this resolution. And with the passing of the previous set of minutes from the 24th, that resolution for the 90 beds has been passed by council.
Other discussion? See, Councillor Markey.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. I completely agree. Board of Management, or Long-Term Care Board of Management, met on Tuesday, and certainly we had thorough discussion in regards to this. And based on the information that is already in front of council with the 128, we know what the operational savings are of 1.2 million for Rockwood Terrace, and there is the clock is ticking. We need to start that process quickly, get our application in for the additional 28 beds so that we can start purchasing property in the West Grey, Durham, and get the procedure going. So it's a long-term care is going to be two-pronged. Grey Gables is a separate issue. We need to find out more information about what the right size is there. But we know 28 beds, an additional 28 beds is the right size for Rockwood, so let's get the process started so we can get shovels in the ground. Thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden, I completely agree with the amended version of the motion before us. 128 beds is very reasonable, and it is future-ready for Grey County residents that will be utilizing this facility. I would like to emphasize that now's the time to get the application in. We need time to receive approval from the ministry and then start the build. I think that's essential, and I absolutely support this.
Very good. Anyone else? Then I'll call the question. Oh, did I see a twitch? No. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. We are now on to what?
We are now on to city. Oh,
Yeah,
yes, we have to vote on the main.
the main motion now.
As amended.
We're voting on the main motion that has now been amended. Everybody understand? Thank you. Councillor Milne, seconded by Councillor Carlton. Thank you. Any discussion? I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. That was a little bit of gymnastics, but we're through it. It's going to be a good day. Okay, moving to item 6B, Committee of the Whole minutes dated January 22nd. I need a mover. Councillor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Bartnicki. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Item 6C, Committee of the Whole minutes dated January 22nd. I need a mover. Thank you. Councillor Milne and Councillor O'Leary, was it? Yes, seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion of those minutes? You guys are anxious to get to budget, aren't you? I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And now we're on to 6D, Long-Term Care Committee minutes of January 8th. Councillor Burley moves, seconded by Councillor Woodbury. Thank you. I'm still struggling with the names. Any discussion on those minutes? Call the question. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried as well. Thank you very much. We have no need for closed meeting. Any bylaws? None. And we're on to item number 9, good news and celebration. We'll wait for Scott. Councillor Burley, I'll recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. With great pleasure, I'm able to announce that Fly GTA will be starting a scheduled passenger service on the Wyatt Capital International Airport. They'll be flying one flight a day back and forth, starting May 24th to October 28th. It's a trial run. It's something we've been working on for, seems like a lifetime. We can finally announce it that it's going to happen, and we're all excited. And we have many, many players in both Grey and Bruce counties that are just looking forward to this service. And it'll be great for the whole region. Thank you.
That is terrific news, and I know that you've been working on that for a very, very long time. Congratulations. Other good news and celebration? Then I'll call Scott, please. Scott Taylor.
Great. Thanks, Warden Hicks and members of County Council. I'll try to keep this brief because I realize you have budgets here coming up. So I'm here today to talk to you about both a celebration and an event we have coming up in the Planning Department. 2019 marks 100 years of formal planning in Canada. And so we'll just get on to it. Just as a little bit of background, obviously planning in Canada existed far before planners came about. Indigenous peoples have been here for time immemorial. Following that, we had European settlements, which ended up wiping out some of the indigenous settlements, but they came up with their own settlement patterns. Many early Canadian towns and cities were shaped around ports or forts or railways. In fact, many prairie towns and other cities were designed not by planners, but the original design was done by CPR engineers. And I'm not going to take a poll here to see if that was a better system than the current system. We'll just leave that. But the development patterns across the country are really interesting, even in terms of the lots and concessions and the grids that were drawn out. If we think of the long, narrow lots that you see in some of the French colonies versus the square mile grids in the prairies and our lot and concession system in Ontario, it is quite different. The picture you see on the screen there is from Charlottetown in 1771. And so in the late 1800s and early 1900s, there was a lot of calls for reform of Canadian cities and towns. They weren't always the cleanest or the healthiest places to live. In some municipal governments, there was widespread corruption, and movements that had been spreading from Europe and the United States, such as the City Beautiful movement and the Garden City movement, started to find their way into Canada. Particularly, both Regina and Toronto were influenced by the City Beautiful movement, which relied not only on beautifying cities, if you will, but also had components of civic and moral values attached to some of the designs that they were coming up with there to really make monumental, beautiful places within our cities. Then in the early 1900s, the federal government struck a commission to look at the conservation of Canada's natural resources, and that also helped feed into the reforms for more formal planning in that regard. It was on May 31st, 1919, that Thomas Adams, along with a group of other professionals, formed what's called the Canadian Institute of Planners. And because there were no formal planners at that stage, the professionals involved were surveyors, architects, engineers, and what we would call today landscape architects. Thomas Adams himself was from Edinburgh, Scotland. He did emigrate over to Canada and had an influence on a number of Canadian cities. Maybe most notably, he was brought in 1917 after the explosions in Halifax and helped redesign parts of Halifax. He also did a nice plan for Temiskaming, Quebec, and other cities across the country. In 1919, when the Institute was formed, there were 117 members across the country. You became a member by belonging to one of these other professions and moving into planning. Today, there's over 6,900 members in the Canadian Institute of Planners. So as I said, this is the 100th year anniversary. So we've been volunteering with the Institute for the past few years to try to really make sure that we increase the knowledge of planning and planning accomplishments across the country. So we're taking 2019 to celebrate some of those accomplishments. We're also going to reflect on some of what went right and what went wrong. Certainly it hasn't been all sunny skies, that's for sure, and we've learned a lot from some of the people that came before us, for sure, and some of the mistakes that we've made. We'd like to take this opportunity to try to engage the public and educate the public on planning and planners, because it's always better if we can have these conversations before they suddenly say have a development proposed next door. So if your first experience to planning is a good one, hopefully that will shape the other ones in the future as well. We're reaching out across the country to planners and related professionals to try to help mark this momentous milestone. In Ontario specifically, 2019 also marks the 25th anniversary of the Registered Professional Planning designation in Ontario, so that's significant to us as well. So all this is leading to an event that staff are holding on March 7th. It's at 7 o'clock on March 7th, and I should note that at each of your desks today there's a little CIP 100 pen as well as a copy of the poster you see up on the screen. This is a free event, and we're looking to try to, again, educate people on what planners do, why we plan, how we plan, and maybe have a little bit of fun too, and put some of their people's newfound planning knowledge to use by giving them a hands-on exercise where they have to plan a community out of Lego. So we've invited a number of guest speakers to this evening as well. We've been in touch with each of your municipal staff, inviting them if they want to come and profile some of the accomplishments of the planners in your municipalities. We have people from the health unit coming to speak. We have representatives of private consulting planners to really help give a broad spectrum of what is planning and what planners do. So there are more resources there if you're interested on the centenary at the Canadian Institute of Planners website. And most of all, I'd encourage you, if you have a desire, to come to the event on March 7th and hopefully join in the discussions. And if not, there might be other opportunities throughout the year to look at this milestone. So that's all I have. Certainly, if there are any questions, be happy to take any.
Councillor Mill?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I have to admit, when I first looked at the agenda, I thought maybe Scott was bringing forward a zoning amendment that had been going on for 100 years or something. So I'm happy to see that's not the case, and I do think it's rather coincidental, serendipitous, I'm not sure which, that Councillor Thomas is here today, because he's renowned for his knowledge of local history. So it's very fitting, I suppose, that you be here today, of course. So congratulations, Scott and Randy, on the planning thing. It looks like it's going to be a good event, and I hope to attend.
I should note there will be refreshments there too. We always lure more planners by offering refreshments. So.
Now you're going to get a few more takers. You should have mentioned that right off the top.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other good news or celebration? No? Then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor Desai, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much.